Ladies and gentlemen, life has a way of surprising us at the exact moments we believe we have it all figured out. It humbles us, shakes our sense of control, and then, if we're willing to look closer, it reminds us of something astonishing, that beneath every scientific breakthrough, every dream of Mars, every electric car, and every neural interface, there's still something infinitely more powerful: human creation itself. When we talk about bringing a new life into this world, we're not just talking about biology. We're talking about the continuation of everything we are: the stories, the memories, the dreams, the fears, the courage. Every child is a tiny universe of potential, a collision between what was and what could be. And no matter how advanced our technology becomes, no matter how far we reach into the cosmos, nothing will ever compare to that spark of creation that begins between two hearts deciding to bring another soul into existence. People often assume that for someone constantly surrounded by rockets, AI, and equations, the concept of family must seem secondary, an afterthought to innovation. But I've learned, time and again, that the two are inseparable. The greatest innovations in human history weren't born in sterile labs or mechanical rooms. They were born in love, in chaos, in vulnerability, and in the messy, unpredictable miracle of life itself. You see, when you hold a newborn for the first time, your brain changes in measurable ways. Neuroscience tells us that oxytocin levels surge. This hormone, often called the bonding chemical, rewires your neural pathways. Suddenly, your sense of self expands. Your brain literally reorganizes its priorities. Things that once consumed you, the next deal, the next launch, the next big idea, seem to shrink in significance. It's as if nature flips a switch inside you and whispers, "Protect this. Teach this. Become better for this." And that's the secret people don't talk about enough. Parenthood is the most powerful neural engineering experiment nature ever designed. It doesn't just create new humans, it creates new versions of us. When news spreads that another child is on the way, people react with curiosity, surprise, or sometimes even judgment. But if you strip away all the noise, all the social commentary, what remains is something raw and timeless: the expansion of life. The human brain is wired for continuation. The limbic system, that ancient emotional core of our mind, lights up with signals of both fear and love when it senses change. It's nature's way of balancing the unknown with the irresistible drive to move forward. Every time a child is born, it's an act of defiance against entropy. The universe trends toward decay, toward chaos, toward darkness. And yet here we are, still creating light, still creating meaning, still creating life. In my work, I've spent countless hours thinking about what it means to build the future. Colonies on Mars, AI systems that think faster than us, neural interfaces that merge mind and machine. But lately, I've realized something deeply humbling. For all our ambition to engineer intelligence, nothing we create compares to what nature does effortlessly. A single fertilized cell becomes a conscious being capable of laughter, curiosity, and love. That is the most advanced technology in existence, and we barely understand it. Think about it. That child's brain, from the moment it begins to form, starts generating 700 new neural connections every second. Every second. By the time that baby takes its first breath, it already has more neural pathways than all the computers on Earth combined could simulate. We call it life, but what it really is, what it truly represents, is the universe trying to understand itself. And that's why, when I hear the words, "another baby on the way," I don't think of headlines or gossip. I think of the neural symphony that begins in that moment, the flood of signals, the rewiring of priorities, the reminder that no matter how far we reach technologically, we remain biological, emotional, and profoundly human. There's an illusion in our world, a belief that building rockets or running companies makes one somehow less human, more machine-like. But it's actually the opposite. The more you create, the more you realize the fragility of creation. When you hold a child, you realize how absurdly delicate existence really is. You begin to see that love isn't a weakness. It's the fuel for everything worthwhile we've ever built. People ask me sometimes, What drives someone to keep pushing? To risk, to sacrifice, to dream bigger even after achieving so much? And the answer, more than anything, comes down to this legacy. Not legacy in the sense of fame or power, but in the sense of continuity, the idea that something of you will continue beyond you. When you have children, you begin to think not just in years or decades, but in generations. You start designing your work not for the next market quarter, but for the next century. That's why I talk about Mars. That's why I build for sustainability. That's why I believe so fiercely in education, in energy, in artificial intelligence that augments rather than replaces humanity. Because I'm not just building for me. I'm building for the people who will come after me, for those who are only just beginning to exist. It's easy to think of children as something personal, a private joy, a family affair, but in truth, every new life is a contribution to the collective experiment of humanity. Each one is a variable in the grand equation of evolution. Each one carries forward the possibility that we might become something better than we were before. As a neuroscientist might tell you, the brain's most astonishing trait isn't intelligence, it's adaptability, the capacity to change in response to new information, to new experiences, to new responsibilities. Parenthood amplifies that capacity to its highest form. It forces you to grow. It humbles you. It reminds you that, despite all the data and logic in the world, the deepest truths are still felt, not calculated. I've often wondered why people are so fascinated when someone like me has another child. Maybe it's not about the news itself. Maybe it's because deep down, we're all searching for proof that even in a world obsessed with technology and progress, the ancient rhythms of humanity still matter. That love still matters. That family, however complex or unconventional, still holds the power to transform us in ways no algorithm ever could. In moments of silence, late at night, when the engines have cooled and the screens have gone dark, I often find myself thinking about what it means to bring someone new into this world. A world that's both wondrous and chaotic. And I ask myself, what are we really giving them? Are we building a planet worthy of their innocence? Are we creating technologies that protect their minds and their futures? Or ones that enslave them to distraction? Science tells us that early childhood experiences shape the architecture of the brain. Every word spoken, every touch, every song, every moment of attention or neglect, it all builds the neural blueprint that determines who that person becomes. So when we talk about building rockets or rewriting genetic codes, we should also be talking about building minds, about the responsibility that comes with bringing consciousness into existence. It's not just about biology, it's about stewardship, about ensuring that the future we're creating is one they can live in, one they can believe in. When you think about it, the act of having a child is the most profound form of optimism. It's a declaration of belief in the future, an emotional vote of confidence that tomorrow is worth showing up for. You don't bring new life into the world if you believe the world is beyond saving. You do it because somewhere deep in your neural circuitry, the human instinct whispers, "I can do better." That's what I feel every time I think about a new life joining this world. It's not about luxury or legacy in the celebrity sense. It's about evolution, about participating in the grand, ongoing experiment of consciousness, about remembering that the most revolutionary act isn't building a rocket. It's raising a child who believes they can. I remember once watching a rocket launch, not from the control room, but from a quiet hill near the base. It was night. The engines ignited, the ground trembled, and for a moment, the flame tore open the sky. It struck me then that every rocket is like a child. You nurture it, guide it, test it, correct it, and then one day you let it go. You trust that everything you've built into it, all the love, precision, and intention, will carry it forward into the unknown. That's parenthood in its purest form. And yet, we rarely talk about how parenthood reshapes our intellect. Neuroscientific studies show that the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision-making, empathy, undergoes measurable changes after becoming a parent. Your brain literally expands its capacity to care. You start thinking in networks, not just nodes. You stop seeing yourself as an isolated entity and start feeling the interconnection of all things. You realize your existence isn't singular, it's a chain, and that realization changes everything. I think that's one reason why so many people in positions of creation, scientists, engineers, artists, find renewed purpose through family. It's not that children simplify life, they complicate it beautifully. They force you to question everything you thought you knew. They reveal your limits and then quietly show you how to transcend them. You see, children don't just inherit our DNA, they inherit our unfinished dreams. Every generation is a continuation of an equation left unsolved. We pass on our curiosities, our fears, our hopes, and they, in turn, refine them. They push the boundaries further. And that's how humanity evolves, not in sudden revolutions, but in the silent, persistent pulse of generations daring to imagine more. When another child enters the picture, people tend to focus on the logistics, the schedules, the media noise, the speculation. But, to me, it's simpler and more profound. It's a reminder that life keeps choosing to continue, that even amidst chaos, uncertainty, and exhaustion, the human drive to love and create doesn't vanish, it adapts. There's something deeply spiritual in that. Science might describe it as neuroplasticity, as oxytocin and dopamine cascades, as hormonal synchronization between parent and child. But I think of it as alignment, an ancient harmony between the biological and the cosmic. When a child is conceived, the human body becomes a vessel of creation, but the mind, too, becomes a vessel of purpose. You start to ask bigger questions. You start to imagine not just what you can achieve, but what kind of world this new life will inherit. That's when your definition of success begins to shift. It's no longer about personal milestones or public validation. It's about impact, real, lasting, meaningful impact. You start thinking about clean energy, not as a business venture, but as a necessity for your child's survival. You start thinking about AI safety not as a theoretical problem, but as a moral duty. You start looking at Mars not as an escape, but as a possibility, a testament to the resilience of life. That's the beauty of parenthood. It anchors you to the earth while inspiring you to reach for the stars. It humbles you and empowers you simultaneously. It teaches you that the truest form of intelligence isn't measured by IQ or wealth or innovation. It's measured by the ability to love, protect, and guide another being through the mystery of existence. You see, the human brain is an organ of connection. Every thought, every emotion, every act of empathy is a signal that bridges two neural worlds. And that's why family, however complex or unconventional, remains at the heart of our collective evolution. It's not just about bloodlines. It's about the transfer of consciousness. It's about the continuation of memory and meaning across time. I've met some of the world's most brilliant engineers and thinkers, people who can design systems of unimaginable complexity. But what always amazes me most isn't their logic, it's their tenderness. The quiet moments when they talk about their kids, or their parents, or a teacher who once believed in them. Those are the moments when genius becomes human. And that's when you realize that behind every great invention, there's a story of love. So yes, maybe another baby is on the way. Maybe another soul is preparing to enter this strange, beautiful experiment we call life. And if that's true, then the universe just got a little brighter. Because each new life is a data point in the graph of hope. It's the cosmos declaring, we're not done yet. When you study the human brain long enough, you start to see patterns. You start to understand that our deepest drives, to explore, to innovate, to reproduce, are all expressions of the same fundamental impulse to defy extinction, to keep going, to turn chaos into creation. Every neuron in your body participates in that mission. Every synapse echoes that will to continue. It's not just survival, it's transcendence. And so, when I hear that new life is beginning, I don't think of it as a private headline. I think of it as a reminder, a calibration of perspective. Because in a world where AI writes poems, where rockets land themselves, where the boundaries between mind and machine blur more every day, the birth of a child is the ultimate grounding force. It reminds us that, at our core, we are still storytellers, still caregivers, still beings bound by love. That's why I believe every act of creation, whether it's inventing a new technology or nurturing a newborn, is sacred. It's a reaffirmation of what it means to be alive. We are not machines. We are not algorithms. We are consciousness multiplied by love. So, if there is another baby coming into this world, it's not a distraction. It's destiny. It's life continuing its grand experiment through us, through our genes, through our dreams. It's a signal from the universe that no matter how complex we make our world, the simplest truths still hold. Love creates, fear destroys, and life always finds a way. Maybe that's the real reason why this kind of news captures so much attention. Because deep down, we all long to be reminded that creation is still happening. That somewhere, even amidst all our chaos, something pure and miraculous is beginning again. And that's the thing about miracles. They're not loud. They don't announce themselves with thunder or headlines. They begin quietly, as a heartbeat beneath a mother's ribs, as a thought that something wonderful is on its way. I find that deeply humbling. For all the rockets we launch, for all the neural links we create, for all the AI we train, we are still students of one profound mystery: how consciousness begins. How it takes shape, how it chooses to love, to dream, to build, to belong. And when that happens again, when another child takes their first breath, it's as if the universe itself inhales with them. It's a reset, a reminder, a promise that no matter how dark or divided our times may seem, the story isn't over. There's still another chapter waiting to be written. That's why I celebrate it, not as news, but as nature. Not as gossip, but as gratitude. Because every time life begins anew, it hands us the same question it has been asking for millennia: what will you build for me? So to that new life, wherever it is right now, waiting quietly to arrive, the world is vast, imperfect, and breathtaking. It's full of chaos, but also full of courage. It's scarred, but still sacred. And maybe, just maybe, you're the one who will find the balance we've all been searching for. Until then, we'll keep building. We'll keep hoping. We'll keep learning how to be worthy of the future you'll inherit. Because in the end, that's what it means to be human. To keep creating, to keep believing, to keep loving, even when the universe feels uncertain. Life, in all its mystery and messiness, is still the most extraordinary technology ever made. And every time it happens again, it's proof that the cosmos hasn't given up on us. And neither should we. There's something profoundly grounding about realizing that for all our advances, for all the satellites we launch, and all the digital worlds we build, the most important revolutions still happen in the quietest corners of our humanity. They happen when a parent looks into their child's eyes and sees not just innocence, but possibility. They happen when a family redefines what it means to belong, to care, to fight for something that transcends the self. That's what this moment represents. Not a headline, not a distraction, but a pulse, a reminder that the same species capable of creating artificial intelligence is also capable of creating unconditional love. It's humbling, and it's beautiful. Because think about it: the first time you hold a newborn, you realize that evolution has been preparing you for that single moment. Your brain's mirror neurons, those responsible for empathy, begin to fire in synchrony with the tiny movements of that fragile being. Your heartbeat adjusts to theirs, your breath slows, and for a fleeting instant, your sense of identity expands to include another life entirely. That's not metaphor, it's measurable biology. It's proof that connection is our most advanced operating system. And maybe that's what we've forgotten in our pursuit of progress, that we are wired to connect, not to compete. To build, not just to consume. Every new child reminds us of that truth. They reset the code. They bring us back to the source. I sometimes imagine what the world will look like by the time today's newborns are adults. What technologies will exist? What crises will they face? What dreams will they dare to chase? And then I realize the answer depends on what we do now. The world they inherit is not random. It's a reflection of our priorities. Every decision we make today writes a line in their future. So when I hear another baby on the way, I don't think about expansion in the material sense. I think about responsibility, about how each new life is a mirror held up to our generation, asking us, are you making the world safer, smarter, kinder? It's not enough to dream of colonizing Mars if we can't make Earth a place worth returning to. It's not enough to teach machines to think if we forget to teach ourselves to feel. Every birth is a chance to start over, not just for that family, but for all of us. Because every child forces us to confront what we've neglected. The air they breathe, the water they'll drink, the digital worlds they'll inhabit, all of it depends on our choices. And maybe that's why parenthood is such a powerful catalyst for change. It reprograms your mind to think beyond the present. It shifts your gaze from ambition to legacy. That's something I wish more people understood. Progress without purpose is just motion. But when progress is fueled by love, by the instinct to protect and nurture the next generation, it becomes something sacred. It becomes evolution with intention. When I look at the technologies we're building, neural interfaces, reusable rockets, sustainable energy systems, I don't see them as ends in themselves. I see them as tools for our children's freedom, for their curiosity, for their right to dream bigger than we did. We're not building these things to escape humanity. We're building them so humanity can continue, stronger and wiser. And that's why this moment, this announcement of new life, matters more than people realize. Because it reminds us that no matter how far we reach, the foundation of every civilization still begins in the home, in the neural bond between a parent and child, in the fragile, miraculous chemistry of care. You can't automate that. You can't code it. You can only feel it and let it change you. That's what makes us human. That's what keeps us moving forward. When I think about what it means to bring another child into this world, I don't see it as a complication. I see it as a recalibration. A chance to remember why we started building in the first place. We didn't build rockets because we hated Earth. We built them because we loved what life could become. We didn't create AI to replace human minds. We did it to amplify them, to push the boundaries of understanding. And we don't bring children into this world because we think it's perfect. We do it because we believe it can be better. Every new heartbeat is an act of defiance against despair. Every birth is a rebellion against entropy. It's saying to the universe, we are still here, we still believe. And maybe that's what this so-called family bombshell is really about. It's not about fame or surprise or speculation. It's about the audacity to keep creating, even when the world tells you it's too much, too uncertain, too late. It's about trusting that life knows what it's doing, even when we don't. Because when all the noise fades, when the engines stop roaring and the data stops streaming, what's left are the quiet things that truly matter, the laughter of children, the warmth of connection, the fragile beauty of another sunrise. Those are the constants, the things worth protecting. We build rockets to explore the stars, but we build families to understand why the stars matter. We create machines to solve problems, but we create life to give those solutions meaning. That's the balance. That's the harmony we must never lose sight of. So yes, perhaps there's another baby on the way. Another heartbeat joining the human symphony. Another chance for us all to remember that behind every great innovation lies something even greater. The courage to love, again and again, in spite of everything. And maybe that's the most revolutionary act of all. Because in a world that keeps changing faster than our hearts can process, choosing to bring new life into it isn't naive, it's visionary. It's a statement of faith in humanity itself. So tonight, as I stand here, I'm reminded that the future doesn't arrive through inventions, it arrives through people. Tiny, fragile, extraordinary people who allow us more attention matters than all. That's why we dream. That's why we dream. That's why we keep going. No matter how heavy the burden, no matter how hard it is. Because one day, that child the truest legacy any human can ever leave behind.